Next on the news. Squeals of delight on a brand new state-of-the-art playground at St. Francis de Sales School for the Deaf in Crown Heights. President Biden unveils a new policy that protects undocumented spouses of U.S. citizens from deportation. Pope Francis denounces the persecution of Christians in the Congo and is calling on the international community for help. Plus, the bucket list wish fulfilled for a man battling ALS for more than 2 decades. I'm Jessica Easthope. Currents News starts right now. A Brooklyn school for deaf children is ushering in a new era of inclusivity through play. St. Francis de Sales School for the Deaf in Crown Heights has recently finished a state-of-the-art playground accessible for deaf children with all abilities. It took 5 years, but the hard work is paying off in leaps and bounds. The sounds of a playground are unmistakable, even when the children playing hear nothing but silence. At St. Francis de Sales School for the Deaf in Crown Heights, recess is access.
It's beautiful because you'll see children in wheelchairs, children with canes, you'll see sign language, you'll see picture exchange, communication books, and iPads.
This playground, which opened this spring, took 5 years of work, research, and compassion to get off the ground, which Executive Director Jody Falk says is made of soft, bouncy rubber suited for all types of walkers and rollers.
Whether you're in a wheelchair or you're a walker or you're deaf blind, everything is accessible to the students to go independently.
The structure, which was partly funded by the Mother Cabrini Health Foundation grant, has features for every St. Francis student, deaf, deaf-blind, and deaf-disabled.
Some of our students use pictures.
Supervisor of Instruction and Operations Dawn Welters says she wishes she had this when she was a kid.
They don't have any barriers and they can do whatever they want. That's something I want for all deaf children, all deaf-blind children, all deaf-disabled children.
But for the kids who do play here, they enjoy it. In some cases, more than they could ever express.
Yeah, I like the swings the most. And I'm smiling and I have lots of fun there. I like the merry-go-round. That's my favorite one. Yeah, I love playing with my friends on the playground.
Not only was St. Francis de Sales School for the Deaf intentional about the design of the playground, they were also intentional about the color for the students who were visually impaired. The blue and yellow area behind me signifies a place to play, whereas the red area signifies a place to walk.
It's been a part of the strategic vision of the school to become state-of-the-art.
It's still a climb to get to true universal inclusivity. St. Francis de Sales covers new ground every day.
So I do have hope for what the world looks like in the future. So yeah, St. Francis would be very proud of the development and relationships established here.
We are a safe haven for the students and their families, and we are a model for what it should be.
On the playground, language comes in all forms. But this needs no translation. In addition to the new playground, St. Francis de Sales School for the Deaf has also created a very real way to teach independence. This is Activities of Daily Living, a mock apartment where students can learn how to complete basic household tasks like washing clothes, making a bed, and using a TV. Before students use the brand new space, they'll set goals and work toward them with their therapists in an effort to create lifelong skills that will allow them to live more balanced and independent lives. And if you want to help St. Francis de Sales School for the Deaf on their mission of inclusivity, you can donate at sfdesales.org/donate. Rents are going up for the roughly 1 million people living in New York City's rent-stabilized apartments. The Rent Guidelines Board voted to increase rents by 2.75% on one-year leases starting in the fall. Two-year leases could go up by as much as 5.25%. The hikes apply to leases signed on or after October 1st. President Joe Biden announced a new immigration policy that will protect the undocumented spouses of U.S. citizens from deportation.
This action still requires undocumented spouses to file all required legal paperwork to remain in the United States. It requires them to pass a criminal background checks, and it doesn't apply to anyone trying to come here today. It only applies, this action is a better way. It doesn't tear families apart while requiring every undocumented spouse to fulfill their obligations under the law.
The executive action gives permanent residency to illegal spouses of U.S. citizens and their children. It's a decision that could impact 500,000 families. The announcement comes on the 12th anniversary of DACA, which under former President Barack Obama gave legal status to immigrants who illegally entered the U.S. as children. According to White House officials, the new policy will be available to spouses who have been in the country for at least 10 years and will allow them to work legally. The Texas Attorney General is threatening to shut down a Catholic nonprofit that runs a shelter for migrants in El Paso. The state is calling Annunciation House a stash house and is accusing it of helping migrants illegally cross the border from Mexico. The attorney for Annunciation House calls that claim nonsense and says the state is attacking the free exercise of religion. The AG's office wants the nonprofit to turn over information and documents about the migrants it's sheltering. Meanwhile, details of the president's discussion with Pope Francis at the G7 summit are being released. The Pope held 10 bilateral meetings with some of the world's most powerful government leaders, including President Biden. According to a White House statement, the two leaders met about the need for a ceasefire in Gaza, the war in Ukraine, and peace in Sudan and the Congo. President Biden also thanked the Pope for his efforts in returning abducted Ukrainian children to their families. Pope Francis is condemning the persecution of Christians living in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The Holy Father said Christians in Congo have faced ongoing oppression since 2014, with armed groups targeting individuals and destroying dozens of churches. Pope Francis is calling on the international community to help stabilize the area. The month of June is keeping the Holy Father on the move. Despite walking less and using a wheelchair more, Pope Francis is definitely remaining active. In just the last 2 weeks, he had about 80 meetings, both public and private, and the venues for some of these meetings have been pretty diverse, from a garage on the outskirts of Rome to the G7 summit in the south of Italy, where the Pope had a more than 12-hour day. Now to a story that will inspire everyone, especially those struggling with illness, to keep on fighting. A man in Missouri has been battling ALS for over 20 years, and he just fulfilled his lifelong dream of skydiving.
We're gonna jump together, man.
It started with a surprise from a good friend. It's been a life of love for aviation for 66-year-old Mark Johnson.
I used to fly an airplane when I was a kid. I always wanted to jump out one.
Mark is living with ALS. He was given 2 to 5 years, but that was 24 years ago. Since, he's been fighting. In April, he was moved into hospice care and was asked if he could do one thing. What would that be? He said, jump out of a plane.
I'm very excited and very grateful to have the opportunity to do it.
We're going to be crouching like this. You'll be grabbing onto your harness right now.
So Mark suited up. Mark says he hopes he's an example of why folks fighting ALS should never give up.
That has to do with the people I have around me today. Give me that hope and courage. Live one day at a time and live it to the fullest.
How was that? Great job!
My father was an airline pilot. I've always loved to fly. I think it's a sense of freedom, all of God's creation out there, beyond amazing.
To get to see him experience that joy.
Mark actually learned to fly a plane even before he had a driver's license and always wanted to skydive throughout his life. And before we go, do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number 718-517-3122. That is this Currents News Update. I'm Jessica Easthope. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.